there's a prompt there. Like, what's the shit we're
Okay.
in the closet about? Right? I mean, that's, and in fact, this whole, right, set it up. So first of all, just
Well, you were saying about you were talking about your work day. You had the second work day of your 90-day level up program that you have for agents. And you were talking about how you mentioned, you're talking about manifestation, what it takes to manifest. You brought up law of attraction, Abraham Hicks. And then you said, I'll say it and then you can build on it, right? But you said law of attraction, vibration, manifestation. It's not a conversation that happens in real estate very much.
right.
And then I said, I think there are humans in real estate who love Abraham Hicks and like the law of attraction, watch The Secret. Like there's a thing that we like about it, but the gravitational pull of GCI and the production conversation is too intimidating to come out of the closet about the woo-woo shit we're into.
Right. Good.
Okay.
And
That's
the sort of the prompt for today, or it could be one of the prompts for today. We'll see how far we go. But you just said come out of the closet with it. And it just really resonated with me. Like, yeah, that is really sort of the problem, like not the problem, but like, that's what it feels like. It feels like you got to come out of the closet and get public and, when coming, I'm cis, straight, white, most privileged. No, there ain't no closet, that I've ever had to come out of. So I don't know what that experience is. And I imagine there are cases, there are issues in my life or things that happen, like that thing about being, really into the law of attraction. It does feel like, that would be a coming out of the closet kind of event. Like, no, I really am, that you can, the thing that started the conversation, thing I was sharing with you earlier, just to say it again, because now we're recording, is the principle of the workday is that the universe will find a way to deliver to you what you want, right? That's the Abraham Hicks quote.
Yeah.
It's the universe will find a way to deliver to you what you want, which is, I totally get that. That is,
I love that.
I love that quote. That's in fact the way I live my life, is that the universe is up. And then it occurred for me, and this is what showed up at the workday, then it occurred to me, well, in fact, the universe is already delivering to me what I want. This is everything I have, is what I'm willing to manifest. And then the natural extension of that is, okay, well, if the universe will find a way to deliver what I want, and in fact, the universe is already delivering to me what I want, then the throttle, the thing that's keeping me from having everything or whatever the next thing is the velocity with which I'm willing to accept responsibility for whatever's coming next. Where's the was it the throttle? Is that what we're going to call that? I don't know. The bottom.
Yeah.
I don't know what
throttle up or down, right? I think a throttle works up or down, but
the velocity with which I'm willing to accept it, or maybe that thing about being responsible just showed up too. Like the willing to, my willingness to be responsible for whatever the universe has got cooking for me next.
You're being responsible for the tuning of your vibration to that which is already in motion. Like if it's coming to you at a particular frequency, but you're at a different frequency, like it, Abraham Hicks always says, like, you're the only uncooperative component. Like all cooperative components are coming together, right? To give you what you've already asked for. You're the uncooperative component.
That's right. That's great. I never heard her say that, but that's exactly right. You're the uncooperative component. And I'm saying, I'm using responsibility really in the landmark sense, the sense of responsibility where cause of the matter, not fault or blame.
No,
right? Not responsible, but like, am I willing to be
accountable,
responsible? Am I willing to do what it takes, and
agency, that's agency, dude, by the way.
Yeah, it really is. It's like, okay, I get to say what is coming to me, and and it's enrollment, and it then really does sort of begin to dovetail into that kind of leadership that we've been talking about. Are you willing to continually create it in language, what you want, and talk about it and stay out there and really do it? It's exciting.
Yeah. There's two things coming up in my space. One is the first one is quick, which is and agents like us talk about things like this. Like that's always the salve for me, is like, Like
Yeah.
whenever I think I'm getting too far out there, I
Yes.
always remember, like, this is why I surround myself with people who are interested in the same conversations, vibrate at the same frequency, who are in the same closets that I am. Like, and
Yeah.
that brings up the second thing, which is as a white man and a human, let me say it this way, as a human, shame is shame.
Yeah.
Right? That I carry shame for whatever I have shame about is no less shameful or no less throttled for my lived experience than the shame somebody else carries in a different economic class, a different upbringing, a different culture. But shame is shame. And so in that way, it's an appropriate, I think, description about how it feels when you're afraid to say what you really feel for fear that you'll be outcast.
Right.
This is why we stay in the closet. We come out of the closet and people would say, they shun you and they say, you're not a part of this tribe, leave. And now I've just cut myself off from provision and community. And so, shame is shame in the human experience. And for those listening, I just want, it's a valid thing to look at. Right. And I would say on this side of having found, I would say, my voice in the things that I have convictions for. And I've practiced sharing publicly the things that I believe or enjoy, like, it's very freeing. And I think that also is like the stories I hear of people who have a much harder cultural closet to come out of. Like if you're gay, if you're I was thinking if you're a right winger, that would be depending on the circles, right? Like people would say, like, doesn't matter. Like people will hold their cards close to their chest. And when you come out with whatever it is your truth, like there's a lot of freedom around that.
Yeah. And there really is there's not just the thing you said. First of all, let's just go back for a second. The thing you said about shame, I think is really rich. There's I think one of my favorite or most useful, not favorite, really, one of the most useful listens or reads is Brene Brown, the work she's done around shame and how it all really just comes down to, at the core, shame as the universal connector and the universal limitation on human potential, is that it comes down to our ability to usefully transcend shame, right? And a lot of what we've thinking about it, a lot of what we've talked about regarding the force field, a lot of what gives the force field its power is shame, is the threat of shame, is, if I don't make enough money and, if I don't have the deals, the comparisons that come with that. And,
so good.
How am I going to look to my team, to my brokerage, to my clients, the whole BMW, realtor, it's all to avoid, could argue that it's shame avoidance driven.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good because to me, if I think about part of the problem or the madness that gets in the way of people leading their change in the world, it would take you, let's back this up a little bit. If we think about like the impact you want to make, the change you want to make is going to require your conviction for the worldview you have about the change that needs to happen. You would see it a certain way. You're like, this is what I see needs to happen. But in order for you to take action and move forward on that, you would have to not be shackled by shame in order to broadcast that message, invite and enroll others into the project. You would have to be able to step out of the gravitational pull or the force field, if you will, to lead that change. So our pillar of leadership for this community and what we're saying about, making your impact in the world requires leadership. And for you to step into that leadership, you'd have to be able to step outside of shame.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'd be too afraid of saying the wrong thing to the wrong people. Right. And then you would never say what really needs to be said.
Right. And you couldn't stand for whatever it is you're standing for. And Yeah.
And you would just be retweeting, requoting everybody else that said something that was already culturally acceptable and not actually say what you want to say.
Right. And that there's no leadership in that for sure.
No, you'd be quoting Brene Brown or more production stuff or, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and it's nothing, like I said, nothing that's unbelievably useful source material. But the question that this community is about is, okay, where are you taking it? What's your self-expression? And to go circle back to what we started with manifestation and the law of attraction and coming out of the closet as a woo-woo,
vibrational
being. Right?
Yeah.
It's so funny. So this came up for me. This is really funny. This just came up for me. Some very good friends of ours, and we don't have to name them, but good friends of yours and mine, have a brokerage, and I heard through the grapevine that they were coming over to EXP. But when you hear that as an EXP agent, you hear that through the grapevine, that means they're not coming over with you. And well, that that's sort of life-changing money there. And so, and I had spoken to them about it years ago, and it just drove up all this stuff for me. I was talking to my partner about it, and she was, and because I had said a few years ago when I was talking to the owner, said to myself, oh, well, he'd never come over with me. He was being recruited by big machers at Remax and Zillow, all kinds of big people. It's like, I said to myself, I'm not that. I'm, not gonna, whatever happens here, it's not coming over. And so I really sort of just dropped it, and we're good friends, and we've been sharing whatever. And then this happens, and I hear about it, and I call, like, what? Whoa, hey, look at me. But the point was that my partner asked me this question, which was, who are you for yourself? Who are you for you that he wouldn't go with you? Why do you think that? Who are you for yourself? So this is one of those things that's tied into shame and the closet. And who you are. Who are you that you are? And it really came up for me. I was like, that was a really potent question, right, for me. And who am I that I am? And what I uncovered in it was, who I am that I am is one of many. An option. Good option. But one of many, and that is directly connected to this thing about, here's the connection. Okay, so I got that, and I was talking to my wife about it, and my wife and her friends have been watching this woman named Electra Soul. So if you're interested in sort of, look, so we were joking earlier, I'm almost 60. Everyone younger than me is a millennial. Okay, I don't know. I'm the last generation of boomers, and everyone from under my age looks like a millennial to me, although I know that's not accurate. I don't know what 20-somethings are called now. Right.
I don't know. Gen Zs, I don't know.
They're not Gen Z. See, everyone for you is a Gen Z. Everyone younger than you is a Gen Z. So I don't know, Zoomers or whatever. So she's 20-something, and she's big on the law of assumption, which is, sister of law of attraction. And her name's Electra Soul. You should check her out. She's hysterical. I think she's hysterical. She's 20-something. She talks like this motherfucker, and we are going to be attracting you. She's just great. She's just out there on the skinny branches of just being, and she is for herself because I said so, because I said so, because I said so. And she is that bitch. And why wouldn't I have that? Because I am that bitch. And that's how she goes off. I can't watch a lot of her because it's all the same, but she's just so fully self-expressed, Chris. You would adore her. You really would. You'd be like, there is someone who, and she, she's gonna build a huge tribe. She's just, building a tribe of people that speaks to, and God bless her for doing it, because the message is something that we all resonate with. But in talking this issue about who I am that I am with my wife, she was like, oh, you're not that bitch, are you? You're not that bitch. And I was like, wow, no, I am not that bitch.
Mm.
I am not that bitch. I'm one of many. I'm one of many. I'm, an option.
Wow.
And it showed up. And that's the connection to the law of attraction, is that Electra Soul, are you that bitch? Are you going to be that bitch? Are you going to be the one? Which is then full circle there to the leadership conversation that we're having. And are you going to be the one? And are you going to create for yourself being the one? And that, in fact, could be the throttle or the bottleneck on the universe delivering what you want, is who you are for yourself. Wow, that's a really cool connection. I just hadn't seen that, right? Like that's what it is to be responsible for the universe, whatever the universe has planned. Are you willing to be, that bitch?
Yeah.
That's,
dude, there's so much in there. There's so much to explore in there, because I feel like part of that, one is when you lead, my experience has been when I give myself to the calling, when I give myself to the vision, it takes me into places I've never seen before, into conversations and skill sets I don't have.
Yeah.
And so who am I for myself in those new situations can often be the lid to taking it further. Like I've now learned how to throw my hat over the wall. Like when I bump up against my limits, I'm like, fuck, I am, and I'm a little intimidated by the people in the room or by my lack of performance or whatever. And I go, well, I just know how to get leverage on myself now. So I throw my hat over the wall in some way that is public, that makes me be accountable for, responsible for the next step. And then I just move forward in it. But I can see where a lot of people just wouldn't. There's too much shame or embarrassment of stepping into becoming a beginner again. I think we talked about that in one of the first calls we had, but there's like you've gotten to this level of success here. Why risk it all to be a newbie in something new? Because that doesn't feel great.
Yeah. It's that, who are you that you are kind of conversation. Who are you?
That's right.
That you are, are you going to be that bitch in whatever new thing you're taking on?
That's right. Where
you are, you're going to dominate that new world. Are you that you are going to dominate that world? Or are you that you are, maybe not,
right.
And are you going to be embarrassed? Are you that you are going to be embarrassed? Are you that you could be embarrassed?
Right.
When you said that that's not fun, I thought, I don't know that that's true for me, that I like getting dirty and trying something new and failing at it.
Or maybe a better word for you is a distraction.
Yeah, well, for sure I get distracted with, I was just making,
but not distracted like busy, but distracted like I don't have time for that. Like, maybe
I like it till like the second or third failure, right? And then
everybody has a different, like on that continuum, like a different way you're coming into it. My point is that there is a at some point you will hit a lid,
yes,
that will challenge who you are that you are.
Yes.
And whatever the trigger for you is, whatever the thing is that causes that self-doubt, what you'll then succumb to, I'm one of many. I'm an option. I might be a good option, but you're not that bitch. That's my point is,
right.
It doesn't matter your threshold. Something will cause you to get to a place where you say, especially if your vision is bigger than you, this is my point. If it's bigger than you, it's going to push you to the place that calls you to define who you are.
And it's going to push you through the failure. It's going to push you into the failure, and then you got to get yourself out. It's not going to push you out of the failure. That's another big, that's really sort of key here is, and key to the universe, just to keep the theme of the conversation going. It's what it is to be responsible for the universe delivering what you want. Are you going to move through that failure? Are you going to move through, you don't have the result right this second?
Right.
I got it. You don't have the result right this second.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you failed. You just don't have the result yet. The result you're looking for, and what did you learn and how did you do it? And, it's, wins and lessons, not wins and losses. It's, what did you learn out of it? And are you going to pull yourself out of the failure? That's really one of the defining qualities of leadership as we see it.
Wow.
Is, can you move on from not it yet? Werner used to say that all the time. Werner Harry used to say one of the things that he's attributed his success for is that he could hang out and in the space of not having the result for longer than most people.
Yeah. Right. And who you think you're being in the waiting for the result to show up could either be, if we make it binary here, it could either be, see, I'm not it, or it could be, I'm the one standing in the gap, holding the space for it to show up. Like, same experience, just a different context.
Yes. Yeah, right. And I don't like the word waiting there, because I think waiting is it's passive. But who you are who you are in life as you're participating in the face of no results.
Sure.
You could be, I'm not it. This is screwed. I just got off the phone with one of the newer agents in my organization, and she was clear she screwed up this deal. And really what she texted me was, it feels like I've been outmaneuvered by smarter agents. Mm-hmm. And that's who she is, and I heard everything she said and everything she did. She gave me back everything she said and everything she said. It's not very far off from what I would have done. I mean, maybe I would have done this slightly differently, or said this slightly differently, but I don't think this is being outsmarted I don't think you're being outwitted by smarter agents. I think you dealt with a couple of flaky buyers that decided to back out of the deal that they said they were interested in. And that happens, but who are you that you are in the face of the no results that you're dealing with? And those are the two things. You could either be, I'm not it, right? I'm not that bitch. I'm just one of many. I'm just going along and I'm watching and I'm waiting for the results and I'm active, but that isn't the way the universe, you're not, in my view, that's a small opening for the universe to have to get through.
Yeah, right.
Like, to deliver, the waiting space is like, oh, well, there's someone waiting, versus no, there's someone actively participating, clearing the way. I got it. We're not it yet, but I'm still creating and I'm still working. And I don't know, all of that stuff occurs for me like that's a bat signal to the universe. Hey, I'm over here, ready to get whatever you got that's next for me. I got the last thing you delivered, wasn't it for me yet, but it was only to get me big enough to handle whatever it is that you got coming next.
Yeah.
It's good.
There's a part about sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just like having, I like putting the parameters or I personally like having the instructions of how to manifest, like how to work things out. I'm a very high D and I'm very, like I like having this conversation, because it takes what otherwise would be super woo-woo and like, hey, I'm here, what's happening? And sort of gives it in a grounded reality to it. Like, okay, well, there's actually ways this thing works.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You were
that's, I mean, related to that, I think there is an inroad to being that bitch that is easier than
like that. You're gonna say that all the time.
That might just be the title of this episode. Like, are you that bitch? I don't know. But
I would tag Electrosol in this.
Oh my God, that's great.
She's delightful.
I think there is one of the things that just irks me is the puffing and posturing that can happen in humanity, let alone the industry. But you can kind of reference it with the BMW thing. Like, how do I need to show up so people think I'm serious and valid? And so to me, like, I'm sensitive to I don't want to be that bitch, quote unquote. I don't want to try to be that bitch where I'm coming in and steamrolling things, because the bravado of what I think being the bitch means gives me who I'm being in the moment. Right. And it doesn't actually resonate with the people you're trying to serve. Like, right. You know what I mean? Like, there's a disconnect between you trying to emulate what you think you're supposed to be as the bitch and
yeah, I think this is what I heard in what you said, Chris.
Yep.
And I don't know if this is what you're pointing to, but there's a difference between like the inauthentic pretending to be the bit, like we always joke about this, like this
Yeah.
is, that photo,
right. The photo on the phone, looking at your watch.
That's the
Classic.
right.
Yeah.
That's the faux.
Yeah.
That's the image. That's the facade.
Yeah.
Of being that bitch. And versus, no, who I am in the face of this is someone who is in fact, like you're constituted as someone who's moving forward in fulfilling what it is you're out to lead.
Okay. So that's the inroad that I'm talking about. Like, absent of knowing what I'm out to fulfill, absent of a vision, a premise, pillars, absent of the context, absent of the direction, then I don't know what I'm being that bitch about. I don't see, like, for me, I can find conviction and ownership and agency in what I'm doing, and I can invite people. I can be the one, not one of many. I can be the one for people inside of the thing I'm creating. And part of what gives me that ownership and confidence is that it's my creation. I'm not inserting myself into someone else's game and trying to play their game and be the bitch in their game. This is my game, bitch. This is my game. I own this game. And so I can be the bitch in this game because it's my game. So fuck off. All of you that are, I mean, that's the funny piece of it. Like, I think that's the attitude and the air of like owning something. You're like, this is mine. Let's go.
Right. And it comes from an authentic place of something, and people can tell if it's authentic or if it's a poser,
right.
And so then there's an interesting line, okay, or a line worth exploring, is the difference between that being a poser and faking it till you make it. Like, you don't have to have the experience for yourself. Right. Like the video that we use in Level Up is this great Mel Robbins video. She talks about this painting that she always wanted and she manifested in her life. It's a great 8-minute video. I adore Mel Robbins. And this is great. We've hit all the people I adore in this podcast.
We're just gonna tag them all.
Just tag them all. And she talks about manifesting the possibility of owning this painting. And so I'm not going to get into the story, but the one piece of it that I think is pertinent to this is there's a moment in there where she has to make a phone call to start the process where she's going to get this painting, and she's pacing and she's nervous and she doesn't want to, and her husband's like, just make the freaking call, but there's nothing about her feeling, experience that says I'm that bitch. There's nothing there that's like, okay, I am definitely making this happen. The entire experience that she shares is one of being nervous and scared and out of her league and out of her depth and, one of many. Like, just her experience is one, but she's walking the walk of someone who is going to take the actions to get what she wants, despite her experience of not being that person. And I think that's a really critical thing to get, is that her actions were one of, she's going to get it, she's going to move forward in getting this, but her experience was one of, I can't, this doesn't make any sense, I can't do this, why would I do this? But her actions were consistent with doing it. So it's not how you feel about it which is an interesting phenomenon, because Abraham would say for sure how you feel about it is critical, but at the same time there's that line that's somewhere in there, that feeling that your actions are going to start to dictate how you feel about it as much as your feelings dictate your actions. And to be able to play with that vibrationally, to play with that space is, I don't know, interesting, fun, challenging, exciting.
It's the work. I mean, to play with that, to wrestle with that is the work. I mean, that's the work of leadership. That's the work of pioneering something new. Like, that's what I mean by standing in the gap, like the gap of where you want to go versus where you've been. Like, like that's the work of change. you gotta stand in the middle of that. I also refer to that as leading from your questions instead of leading from your answers. You're like, you don't have to have the answer and have all the success in the world to be valid. You only have to stand in the gap for what you believe and want and invite others into it. And that's a different kind of leadership.
Say that again, because that's killer.
Well, there's the way we hold leadership typically in this world is you're the leader because you've been there and done that. You have all the accolades and the big resume and all the stuff to prove that you're that you're that bitch. I don't have the resume to say that I'm that bitch, but the thing that causes me to believe that I'm that bitch isn't because I have the answers. It's because I have the questions that no one else is willing to talk about. And I'm inviting you into the question of what would create change. And that's what I can be the bitch about.
Is having the questions. I mean,
yeah, I'm the bitch for the question. Like I'm willing to hold the space for the conversation around the change we're trying to make. And I understand from my lived experience that no one has the answer, because if we did, it wouldn't be like this.
Right.
But that takes not the work of getting to that realization for me. That was work. That was work of like creating my context for who I am and what's happening in the world. That takes something.
That's great. And then I can really just then begin to deal with and hear that's the space of any real transformation is in the inquiry of what you're up to, what we're building, whatever it is that you're building, and that there's something new will arise. It's sort of having the faith that some new space will arise in the asking and the inquiry of the questions.
That's right. Of course, that's what the manifestation is. It's rocket of desire that's on its way. And the manifestation isn't here yet, but you're behaving as if it's on its way. That's right.
I think we should leave that there.
So good, Aaron. All right, man. Thanks for your time today. Always good. See you next time.
Always good.
Oh, next week or next episode is going to be Michael Mayer. So everybody tune in for Michael Mayer from the RePurpose Podcast.
Okay, good.
Thanks, Aaron.